We're living Dumb and Dumber lives. You're telling me there's a chance today could be the day. Finally, we can get a reveal. LeBron is at Fanatics Fest. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz, Yahoo Sports Daily. Caroline, this could be it. He's got 3 Fanatics Fest shows coming up. Got a whole block of opportunity to see a whole bunch of the king. Do we believe that this could be the chance? Like, he's got 3. You see it there. The Shop, Mind the Game podcast, and a CNBC boardroom crossover called Game Plan. So let's take it show by show, and we're going to figure out if this show is where LeBron's going to give us his new truth. How about this one? Game Plan, presented by CNBC Sport and Boardroom. What do you think? What's the percentage chance we get the reveal on Game Plan?
First of all, what a lineup. Kathy Englebert, LeBron James, Jimmy Pitaro, Adam Silver, Lindsey Vonn, Dana White. My goodness, that is quite the panel. We will definitely be tuned into that one. I give this like a 10 to 20% chance. 20 actually might feel a little bit high now that I say it. Maybe like a 10 to 15% chance. It's not 0. Like, I would be totally and completely floored if LeBron James makes his decision on a panel with 5 other people on a platform that he doesn't own, that's not his, one where he's a guest. But I do think that there is a slight chance, maybe a 10% chance, that the service that picks up his docuseries is NBC. Maybe it is going to be streaming on Peacock after this season. So I could see a world where LeBron James, being the brilliant business person that he is, acknowledges his partnership with Peacock, with NBC, whatever it might be. And maybe there's a handshake agreement of, look, yeah, we'll pick up your docuseries as long as you make your announcement of where you're playing your final year or years on one of our platforms, that you do have, we do have, total and complete ownership of your announcement, that it has to be on an NBC property. That is the only way that I could see that happening. Other than that, I don't think that LeBron wants to share the stage or the spotlight with anyone, much less 5 other big name superstar celebrities in media.
I like your logic, although I give this a 5% chance. I give this 5% chance, but I'm going to stack your logic a different way. If it's going to be an announce of a partnership, CNBC covers business, right? So let them cover the business aspect of it. There's one man on that panel that would want to announce a partnership for a docuseries about LeBron, and that's Jimmy P. Like, Jimmy Pitaro would be the one. So if there's an announce coming of an ESPN partnership, CNBC just happens to be the place where it gets announced. Maybe I could stack it up that way. The problem is, if this boardroom, or this game plan, I should say, panel was just Jimmy and LeBron, I could make it work that way. With Adam Silver, I can make it work that way. How do I justify everybody else that's on that panel? Like, what's Dana White doing while LeBron's making his announcement? Like, what's Dana White doing while he's sitting there on the panel and suddenly Dana White's not the most important part of the panel? I have a hard time not only thinking that LeBron would want to share his announce on that panel, I have a hard time thinking that the rest of that panel wants to share that announce with LeBron. Like, I don't think in my mind that Lindsey Vonn really gives a damn about being part of LeBron's announcement. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I could stack it even with Kathy being there, with Adam Silver being there, LeBron and Jimmy Pitaro. Then I could stack it into, oh, this is an ESPN announcement for some reason is being covered on CNBC. I just think when you factor in the number of brands that are involved and the number of high-profile names that are involved, it's almost impossible for me to get to LeBron announcing it there. So what about LeBron's Mind the Game podcast? He's got Tyrese Halliburton as his special guest. Tyrese out there saying, he's out there on Twitter, at least getting everybody the concept that maybe this is going to be like that moment. Are we buying that this is it?
No. Like, this is 0% chance. It's absolutely 0% chance. I saw Tyrese Halliburton tweeting out, there it is, tomorrow it's time at King James, and everyone was losing their minds. Like, it's time for what? It's time for his announcement. No. It's time for them to sit down with each other. It's time for them to do their show together. I think that's just Tyrese Halliburton hyping up the show, showing his excitement for it. I think we're reading too much into it if we think that that means an announcement is coming. I don't know if there is anyone that LeBron James would want to make this announcement with. That's not his family, or not, somebody that's very, very close with him, Rich Paul, so on and so forth. I don't know if there's any other player in the NBA that he shares such a close relationship with that he wants to share that moment with them. LeBron wants the spotlight. There's nothing wrong with that. This is more than likely his last time that he's going to go through the free agency saga that we've gone through so many times before. But if there's anyone that he would share the stage with, share the spotlight with, it's not gonna be Tyrese Halliburton. And that's no disrespect to Tyrese Halliburton, but what relationship did they have? What is LeBron going to the Pacers? I don't think so. If it was anyone, it would be Draymond, it would be Steph, it would be, a close, relationship that he might have with a teammate or a coach on the next team that he's going to. It's not gonna be Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, I mean, if we have been forced to sit here and overanalyze every friendship he's ever had to figure out who he's going to play with next, which is what we've been doing. If we're sitting
We
here
have
saying,
done that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, but he knows this guy, but he played with this guy at the Olympics, but these guys are besties because of this. Like, well, give me the tie. Somebody explain to me what I'm missing on some great tie between Tyrese Halliburton and LeBron James, where LeBron is thinking, you know what I really want? I want to announce it with you, Tyrese. Like, this isn't about Tyrese Halliburton at all. This is just about we can't have our cake and eat it too. We can't sit here and decide that LeBron ain't going to play at several different places because he doesn't have the same level of relationship and then decide that he's going to make the announce with somebody that, as far as we know, he has no relationship other than they're doing a show together. They both play in the NBA. Maybe they're texting buddies. Maybe they're texting buddies. But are you giving the big reveal in this moment with somebody that's your texting buddy and not with everybody else that's involved? So, yeah, I want to give this like 2.5%. 2.5% is what I give this chance-wise. So how about this one then? We've gotten all the way to the shop. We all know the shop. The shop is going to be at Fanatics Fest. There'll be a huge, massive live audience. It's the shop. It's LeBron and the boys. What do we think? What's the chance on this one?
This is the most likely. If I have to put, a number attached to it, I would say it's more than 50% of these three shows alone. I would say, if I'm going to give 10 to 15% for the boardroom panel, I'll give the rest of it to the shop. I still don't think that's what it's going to be. The shop is a huge podcast. We all know that it's just a huge show. It has a huge following, obviously. I mean, LeBron is in it. LeBron produces it. But I still don't think that that's where LeBron would make his announcement. But if it's going to be one of these three appearances, shows that LeBron is going to be on over the next couple of days, it would be that one. It's something that he owns totally and completely. That is his. That's his show. So why would he make the most anticipated decision in the NBA this offseason and, split the check, split the eyeballs, split the revenue, split the views with another media company that he might not have a relationship with, that he would want to own that entirely. So I would say that is the most likely place that he would or he could, but I would still think he'd want an even bigger platform to do it.
Yeah, like I'll give this one 50-50, I guess. But it's 50-50 in the way of, Caroline, if you've walked into your husband, you're trying something on. You're like, do you like this outfit? No. Do you like this outfit? No. Do you like this outfit? No. And then finally coming, do you like this outfit? He's like, yeah. That's how I feel about this right now. It's not that, nobody has faith in it. I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll give it to the shop. Realistically, everything you said about what he owns is 1,000% true, and I agree with all of it. My biggest question is, why is he doing it on the shop? What's the motivation for doing it on the shop? And also, I think we have to acknowledge, it's going to be the highest rated shop ever anyway, because everyone's going to watch it to see if he's making a decision. So is LeBron going to use that moment at Fanatics Fest? Sure, you can talk me into it. But also, you could talk me into a Beyonce-like midnight drop where none of us are expecting it, and all of a sudden the fax goes out. All of a sudden, I realize faxes don't exist anymore, but all of a sudden a billboard goes up. All of a sudden there's a quick announce. I don't know what the right answer here is, but I also want to stress this, Caroline, because I've seen so many people say, is it selfish, and what's he doing, and what's it do to everybody? I keep saying the same thing. This is LeBron's decision to make on whatever time frame LeBron wants to make his decision. I get that we're all trying to put the dots together to find the coolest way for him to make the announce in a way that rocks the entire world. But is that going to be Fanatics Fest where there's a million other things going on? I don't know. Or is it going to be on his own next week? I don't know. But also, I don't think he has to rush it just because we want him to rush it. It's been pretty clear from everybody around him. He's going to take some time and think about it, figure it out. It's also pretty clear he's enjoying life. When I see him dancing side stage at concerts, I don't sit there and think, oh, I can't believe the attention he needs. I think, Man, that's a guy that's enjoying life. Maybe he's just enjoying golf and concerts and having a good time while his agent sorts everything out, and then he'll figure it out on his timeline at his discretion. I don't know that there has to be an answer at Fanatics Fest just because we've stacked it together in a way that we feel like there should be an answer at Fanatics Fest.
And also, just because these are scheduled appearances that LeBron James has doesn't mean that LeBron can't snap his fingers and immediately appear on any media platform in the country whenever he's ready to make his decision. He doesn't need to plan this months and months in advance. He's on his timeline. But I think there's two reasons why we have yet to have an answer, a destination for LeBron. One, he doesn't want to compete in the news cycle. We're in the middle of the World Cup. Taylor Twellman will join us in just a little bit to touch on that, by the way. We're in the middle of the World Cup. This has been one of the newsiest summers that I can remember in a very long time. We know LeBron, and we know LeBron wants to own the news cycle. He doesn't want to have to compete with eyeballs or with time on ESPN and Yahoo Sports Daily. So I think that's one reason why. I also think another reason why could be he might not know yet. When LeBron and Rich Paul came out and said, I'll play for the vet minimum, that could have been a slam dunk on the Lakers. Like, I'm not going to play for you for the vet minimum, but I'll play anywhere else in the vet minimum. Could have been. Or maybe they looked at the landscape of the NBA and realized that there was not as lucrative or rich of a market for LeBron James. So he might just not know yet.
He's also going to be on a panel with Jimmy Pitaro today, as we mentioned earlier, who's the boss of ESPN. I watch a lot of ESPN. I have a lot of friends that work and I worked with at ESPN. One thing that is not lost on me, if you watched Get Up this morning, Peter Schrager was the host of Get Up. If you've watched First Take this week, there's no Stephen A. So when LeBron is talking to Jimmy Pitaro, which obviously is happening, and when he's talking to Adam Silver, which is obviously happening, when every media partner is having some conversation with LeBron, I do think that there's an element of like, hey, everybody's on vacation this week. This is a known week. If you work in sports media, the last week and this week are known weeks for vacation. It's when almost everybody takes time off. It's why whatever shows you listen to all the time, you'll notice you have a lot of substitute hosts in the second, third, and fourth weeks in July. You have substitute hosts because that's the easiest time to take vacation before football season. You may not have thought about that. You may not care about that. LeBron does. At the end of the day, he doesn't want to make his announce. I don't believe. I wouldn't make a lot of business sense to make my announce on a Friday afternoon. It also wouldn't make a lot of sense to me to make a business announcement on a day when nobody's around that usually reacts to it to react to it. I'm sure that there is some sense of, okay, the media cycle returns. It's time to announce. That there's got to be some planning for somebody that is more than just a basketball player. He's a mogul. At the end of the day, as we've said many times, this is also about a lot of different business pieces for LeBron James. So I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he enjoys the attention. Maybe he wants to wait until everybody's back. Maybe he wants to wait till the World Cup's over. But at the end of the day, hasn't he earned all of that? He's LeBron damn James. He's earned the right to come back however he wants to come back. Whether that's an announcement today on the shop in New York, which we would love because it becomes the entire show tomorrow and we can tell you all about it. Whether it's that or whether it's that he wants to wait 2 weeks, it's LeBron. He has the right to do it exactly when he wants and exactly how he wants. All right, World Cup coming up next. You mentioned it. Taylor Twellman going to give us the breakdown. The meltdown in England and the greatness of Messi continues. We'll break it down. Cahoon sends the motion. The motion stops short. That was just an easy. It rips away. Cannot be stopped. What a move down to the 12-yard line. Huge catch right there.
Yeah, Red Douglas, they got him open in space. You saw in the motion he hesitated. That's a tough play for a safety. He's coming downhill on a quick 5-yard route. All you have to do is make one man miss, and Red Douglas does a great job of making his man miss.
Jaylen Brown is one of the 20 best players in basketball, and they just let him be traded from Boston to Philadelphia for 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and Paul George. What's the league seeing that everybody else with eyeballs can't see? I don't get it. How does 35-year-old Kawhi Leonard go for more? How does Walker Kessler go for more? It just doesn't make any sense.
Jerome Johnson, standout quarterback. He's looking deep, and he's throwing deep, and he's got a man, and it is a touchdown. Sugar Skulls, Jerron Waters, wide open for the score.
That would be one of the most challenging routes to defend. I mean, he ran a post from one side of the field to the other, and if you're by yourself as a defensive back, good luck with that.
How do you feel about the Seahawks skill players at this point in time?
The good part, I think, if you're a Seahawks fan, what you would argue here is that outside of Cooper Kupp, like, everybody should, I think, have another step to take. It's not impossible that JSN does this again, but you bake in some, I'm not like negative against the player, but just a little regression there. The way you offset that is younger guys and other players step up.
Who could have predicted this back in 2007? This picture, we'll get to this in a minute because I'm still trying to make sense of how it's possible. You've got these two legends in one pick. But to break down everything that we saw from the action yesterday, Taylor Twellman, in a tournament that has seen a ton of comebacks, all right, what do we make of it? How does England sort of figure out what went wrong yesterday?
England, scared money doesn't make money, Fitz. I've said that no matter what sport you're in, England, for whatever reason, was the better team, in my opinion, for the first 55, 60 minutes. But for whatever reason, whenever they get put into that spot, they get very, very tight. And I think Thomas Tuchel, it's been reported over the last 10 to 15 minutes that he will be back for the European Championships in 2028. I don't know if that's the right decision because they brought in a German manager first and foremost. We need to make this abundantly clear. The English FA brought in their most bitter rival manager in a German, in Thomas Tuchel, because he was more, and I'm going to use their words, sophisticated and developed tactically. Really? You're up 1-0. You're completely dominating the game. You're frustrating Argentina. And you have, after the goal, you have 14% possession. 14. They had all 11 players behind the ball for 75% of the final 30 minutes, guys. That's as scared as it comes. And even when you go to the game-winning goal, there were 7 English players inside the 18. Lionel Messi only had 3 teammates, and somehow he still found a way to deliver a ball back post, and they win 2-1. This is going to be really difficult for England to figure out and to swallow because they're as jaded as any fan base on the way they've lost. Hand of God in 86. David Beckham's red card in 98 against Argentina. Now, quarter of a century later, they were the better team, guys, for the first 60 minutes. That's a fact. And Messi and Argentina couldn't figure it out. Now, the irony is Messi and Argentina have scored 80% of their goals after the 75th minute in this World Cup. That's crazy, especially in the knockout round. In the knockout round, 75% of their goals have come after the 75th minute. So you've got to be perfect for 90 minutes. But I've always been a believer. Now, granted, I'm an attacking player. I'm a center forward. But even when you're up 1-0, you can't stop. There's 30 minutes left. And so that is extremely difficult to comprehend. And also, I told you guys this a couple days ago, and I'm going to say it again. Messi and Argentina have a horseshoe stuck up you know what, because they just cannot find a way to lose, and they still found another way to win this in the 92nd minute.
It is truly astonishing to see the clutch time in a type of play that we've seen from Argentina. Yesterday was no different. And like you mentioned, England had this game won. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. So on whom or on what would you place the blame for their loss yesterday?
Oh, it's absolutely Thomas Tuchel. It's not even debatable. It's so easy to look at it. And here's what's interesting, by the way. After the game against Norway, he was very, very expressive and talkative about how the result is good, but we didn't play well. We were not good enough. We need to improve. Jude Bellingham then comes afterwards and then has to say this. And then it's interesting. But then, after the Argentina game, which they blow a lead, he says we played an absolutely perfect game. Whoa. That makes no sense. He can't even answer the question about tactics because he said he doesn't understand how quickly you can ask that question after a game when you lost. Well, wait a minute, Thomas. Wait a minute. Hang on a minute. Because when you beat Norway and you wanted to say something about the players, you were very quickly to have a statement. But now when they want to ask you questions about the manager, you don't understand the question? That's where you miss me. You miss me big. So you have to explain why you bunkered for 30 minutes. That's inexplicable against Messi and Argentina. Why would you allow the greatest of all time more space and time to pick out a pass? It doesn't add up. So to answer your question very bluntly, and it's easily answered, is Thomas Tuchel. And I am a little surprised that the FA is very quickly to say he's coming back for the European Championships in 2028. Because the players had nothing to do with yesterday. You made the subs to go defensive, to put everyone behind the ball, all of it. And quite frankly, the score should have been 4-1, 5-1. They hit the post twice. Jordan Pickford made 2 ridiculous saves. Argentina in the last 30 minutes could have scored 5 goals. That's a fact.
How does Messi do it?
For 15 years, I've been paid to try to put this into words, and I still don't know how to do it, Fitz. I don't know. I grew up watching Michael Jordan, okay? And if I was trying to articulate Michael Jordan, I don't know if I would have found the words consistently of when the moment is the biggest, when the lights are the brightest, how does this player shine? I wasn't in broadcasting for Tiger Woods. I wasn't in broadcasting for Serena Williams. Guys, he's better than all of those 3. He really is. I don't think we fully understand at age 39, he ran over 6 miles in the knockout stage every game. Do you know what he averaged in the group stage? 3 miles. He's digging deep. He's the most competitive, extremely difficult to fully understand how he does it. So Fitz, I don't know. All I'm going to say to the public here is enjoy it, because some things are unexplained. Some things are just, it's hard to put into words. And truly, he's the greatest of all time. And I think 10 years from now, when I'm talking to my grandkids and we're doing this, and I'm going to say, yeah, I was there. I don't know how he did it. No different than my grandfather talked about playing baseball with Joe DiMaggio, or my father's played against Pelé. Listen, I played against Messi, right? But Messi was young. He wasn't even wearing number 10 yet for Argentina. He was still wearing number 19. There is an aura around him. And I joke with he's got a horseshoe. Yeah, it's a joke, guys. He creates his own luck. But watching him celebrate after the game yesterday, full disclosure, I got choked up, because you cannot teach that. It's either you're born with it or you're not. And he is the most competitive person I've ever seen. And it fuels him to new eras and new heights and all of this that none of us have ever seen. 2 assists, 1 with his right foot. He stood on that leg for 25 years of his career, and now he decides to deliver a ball to the back post with his right foot. I didn't even know if he had a right foot. You know what I'm saying? He just does whatever it takes to win. It's unbelievable. Truly is.
Will the United States ever have a Messi?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Otherwise, why are we doing this? Absolutely. Why if you believe that the answer is impossible, then I'm going to hang up this and I'll stop talking about it. And I mean that generally. Like, you cannot not believe that, right? Now, I think you've got to be realistic on where that comes from and how that comes. And I also want to make this abundantly clear. Lionel Messi's Argentina teams didn't win anything in the early parts of his career. The conversation was Lionel Messi can't win anything big with Argentina. I was in the building when they lost to Germany in 2014 in the World Cup final. 18, everyone said he's done. Well, what has he done since then? Right? So it takes a village, right? Because if this was like basketball, okay? And you had Lionel Messi should have 4 World Cups right now then. But it's not. It's not. You have to collectively be everyone together, and then you have to have a superstar like this. So to answer your question, the answer is absolutely you can create and develop a Messi. Sure. But I still think the United States, in order to win a World Cup, Caroline, I don't believe it's having a Messi. I think it's you got to have depth. You got to have real depth of players and high quality players. So personally, I'd rather have the depth now before the superstar. And I know that sounds so weird to people, but give me 40 players playing at a high level that are playing at a real clip before you give me the superstar, because I don't want to waste the superstar the way Argentina wasted it and Lionel Messi in his first 12 years of his career.
Maybe the only thing more impressive than the match yesterday was the picture that everybody has been seeing everywhere. We started with it. I'm trying to make sense, and this is a picture for anyone that hasn't seen it of Lamine Yamal, who is an infant, and there with Messi. His parents had won a raffle that gave them the opportunity for the picture. Make sense of it. Destiny, weirdness. How do we get here?
First off, great on Lionel Messi making sure that Lamine Yamal didn't fall completely into the bathtub. You know, I'm being serious. Like, he's showing his fatherly instincts. Make sense of this. The stars were aligned that day. And I think Lamine Yamal and his father and mother winning that lottery for one of the 3 days, by the way, if you really dive into it, Messi really only spent 3 days where he did things like this for Barcelona. He does not like things like this. And so when you go through the history of that lottery and understand how the stars have to be aligned for this to happen, it's borderline scary. It's borderline scary. Because for 2007, Lamine Yamal at what, 8 months, 6 months, whatever he is in that photo, to be anointed by someone that in 2007, by the way, I played against Lionel Messi in 2007 in Copa America. He's wearing number 19 for Argentina. And yet everyone in Argentina, when we played that game in Venezuela against Argentina, everyone knew. So if you tackled Messi, you had 4 or 5 of his teammates in your face. And then Lamine Yamal to be born and then to have this photo, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to explain that? Fitz, I have no idea. And now they're playing in the World Cup final? And just emotionally think about this for Spanish fans, guys. Messi made his name in their country. Made his name. He arguably made La Liga into what it was with Ronaldo next to him. So every single highlight and milestone that we all talk about outside of Spain, they lived it. He ran circles around every single team in Spain. So all of those Spanish fans right now are sitting there, and Lionel Messi in his La Liga days are doing naked somersaults in their head right now, because for how many years did Lionel Messi flip the league and flip the country on its head with his skill? And now Lamine Yamal, the anointed one, the next coming, could end Messi's career with a loss in a World Cup final. Oh my God, this is as good as it gets.
It's too special to be a coincidence. It has to be divine intervention. Like, that's the kind of goosebumps that I get looking at that photo. But all right, final prediction. Who wins and why?
Oh man, I don't know about injuries yet. Okay. Nico Williams is a very interesting player that hasn't been available for Spain. He's come in for a little bit of minutes here and there. That becomes a real interesting one. My gut tells me, my heart tells me that Argentina and Messi find a way. My brain tells me Spain wins this because they've been the best team in the World Cup. So Spain unequivocally has been the best team in this World Cup, because what they do off the ball is unlike anything that in this tournament we've seen. They've been underappreciated. And I know that sounds weird because they were the second favorite to win the World Cup from the beginning it started. But remember, they started the tournament and they drew Cape Verde. How ironic, by the way, just side note, Argentina taken to extra time by Cape Verde, and Spain couldn't score a goal against Cape Verde. So Cape Verde, good on you, because the two finalists You were the team that took both of those teams to the brink, right? My brain tells me Spain. So it is what it is. I just think Messi, the heart, the emotion, the way the Argentine fans are going to be in New York, it's going to feel like Buenos Aires. I'm telling you that right now because they all know what's at stake. And I'm not talking about the World Cup final, but it's a last taste of seeing the greatest of all time in that jersey. I just wonder if it's going to be too much because Spain has been high energy, high octane. They've been suffocating off the ball. They don't need superstars to win games, even though they've got 3 really, really good players that will be in the best 11 more than likely at the end of this World Cup. Brain tells me Spain wins.
The entire East Coast is going to shake when it all goes down. Twellman will be back with us Monday to give us the reaction to the championship. As always, Taylor, follow him on Twitter at Taylor Twellman just to see the tweets mid-game. It's a delight in and of itself. My friend, I appreciate the expertise as always.
See you guys. Enjoy your weekend.
It's great Taylor. Stuff from Taylor Twellman. I can't wait for Sunday. Coming up, Rory and Scotty chasing history. We'll tell you about it next. Cahoon comes back up, and we'll see if they do another quarterback sneak type play, a tush push type play. He's right up under center. And this time they hand off. Almost had him in the backfield, but cannot be stopped, cannot be contained. That is a huge touchdown for Billy Bowens.
How would you describe that guy who was sitting here in August?
Well, truth be told, it's what you said. I was crushed. I wasn't sure how to feel about everything. It's like you have this dream, as a kid to be somewhere, and you really, really feel like you're supposed to be there. And you know what's working and you know what doesn't, but you're willing to try to keep making it work. I can't even be mad or frustrated about how things have happened. I've had experiences in my life since August that would have not happened had I stayed.
2024 IFL MVP Jerome Johnson, second game ever as a Tucson Sugar Skull, facing this 3rd and 11. Steps up, fires deep, and Lofton's there. One-handed catch, touchdown Sugar Skulls. Are you kidding me? Yo!
That was nasty right there.
I thought he overthrew him. I really did. And then he just reached out, bang, grabbed it.
The starting price for a low 4-star. So low 4-star would be, we could be talking the 350th best player in the country. $350,000.
So 300 to 400 individuals a year, let's say roughly, are getting a 4-star ranking. 350K on average? That feels correct.
I saw that number and I thought, it seems low.
My man,
that was my reaction.
Ross.
It took 9 years for the most expensive NFL team ever sold to go from $1.1 billion to $2.3 billion. That sounds like a lot, but it took 4 years to go from 2.3 to 4.6. Took 3 years to go from 4.6 to 9.6. The escalation in values in the NFL is wild. That tweet from Dylan Dietrich, who joins us now. He's the author of Yahoo's No Sports Business newsletter. Dylan, I don't know. I'm trying to do the math on this. I figure that means the Cowboys are worth $87 trillion. Like, what are we doing here with these valuations?
It's pretty unbelievable to see really like the hockey stick growth in NFL team valuations in such a short period of time. The prior record for a control sale, $6.05 billion for the Commanders. That was in 2023. And fast forward just a few short years later, and we're almost, we're knocking on the door of $10 billion. This landed kind of right in line with where people expected it to be at the beginning of the process. Maybe some more kind of ambitious aspirations for $10 billion, $11 billion, but still, over $3.5 billion more than the last control sale of an NFL team. So just unbelievable growth in, the magnitude of these numbers is getting so high that it's, you start to wonder, it's like, who can afford it at these levels, right? A controlling owner has to own, 30% of the team. So the buyer pool shrinks and, it feels like, could this be the last control sale we see beneath $10 billion? Maybe. I guess it depends on who comes up next. But just astounding numbers.
It's astounding, and I still understand that the NFL is undefeated. I know the NFL is a money-making machine, but still these valuations just absolutely blow my mind. I do want to look at something else that's been on your radar in the Sports Business newsletter, and that is the chatter surrounding the NBA second apron. Adam Silver says it's working. Fans say otherwise. What do you say?
I think the answer is that it's complicated, right? Obviously, a ton of noise about the second apron. This week, you have, Victor Wembanyama taking a hometown discount to stay with the Spurs and kind of protect their ability to be competitive in the future. Obviously, you have the Celtics trading Jaylen Brown to maintain their future flexibility. I mean, look, the luxury tax system was intended to create competitive parity, and there's no arguing that it can do that, right? If you have a contending team that's star laden or star heavy, chances are within 3 years or so, the league rules are going to kind of force your hand into breaking that team up and dismantling that roster. And we're kind of seeing the Celtics be the first ones to go through that process. I think, what leaves a bitter taste in teams' mouths and in fans' mouths is, this is forcing teams to jettison guys that were drafted there, right? That were homegrown superstars. Like that kind of feels like the type of player that you should be able to keep around. I think, Brad Stevens in explaining the Jaylen Brown trade said, hey, like we might not even be sitting here if there was a rule under the CBA that said, if you sign guys that you drafted to a 35% of the salary cap supermax, but that only counted against the cap for 25%, the Jaylen Brown trade might not have even happened. And so it's kind of like an interesting nod to, how do they maybe make some tweaks that kind of preserve those homegrown talents and keep them in market with fans that have grown to know and love them. So it's definitely a noisy situation. It's working as intended, but maybe it's a little bit more severe than I think people had realized and hoped.
No, I mean, it's a salary cap dressed up as He-Man. Like Prince Adam dressed up as He-Man, and everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe it's the same person. Clark Kent, Superman. It's a salary cap. Call it what it is. All right. So from that, we go to the Open Championship, I should say, currently underway, 154th installment of the tournament. Prize pool is looking just a little different this day. What stood out to you about the purse specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like anytime we have a major tennis championship, major golf championship right now, that there's a record purse announced. And the Open Championship's no different. It's up $750,000 from last year to a total purse of $17.75 million. So, record for the Open. Thing is, though, it's actually lagging pretty far behind the other majors in golf. It's $4.75 million behind the U.S. Open and the Masters, $2.75 million behind the PGA, and so still escalating. But it seems like the Open's a little bit reticent to kind of get into this prize money arms race. Maybe they feel, and rightfully so, that kind of the honor of raising the claret jug is prize enough, and it's very much a tournament that is rich in tradition and very adherent to those traditions. And so they're a little more reluctant to get into this kind of prize money arms race that is pushing the other prize purses much higher. It'll be interesting to see how long they can kind of hold out, or to what extent they can hold out when the others are going up every year pretty sizably.
No Tiger and no Phil in any major this year. That's the first time that's happened since 1989. That is astonishing. Why is that? And what effect could that have?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like finally the baton has well and truly been passed to the next generation. And I think that's happened a long time ago, but it really feels a bit more final now than it has. I think what's interesting is we're really seeing today's stars kind of take up the mantle in some interesting ways. So for instance, Rory McIlroy is $4.5 million, give or take, behind Tiger Woods on the all-time PGA money list. Scotty Scheffler is about $6.5 million behind Tiger. So it won't happen this weekend, but we're a handful of tournaments away from having a new kind of all-time PGA money winner, which is wild, right? I mean, Tiger was so dominant for so long. Scotty Scheffler is only 30 years old. He's got $114 million in career earnings, and will probably be in pretty short order, the winningest earner in PGA Tour history. And you contrast that to tennis, right? Obviously, Jannik Sinner just won at Wimbledon on Sunday. He's still only like halfway to Roger Federer and for third place on the ATP money list. So it's just incredible, how kind of dominant, particularly in the big events, Rory and Scotty have both been to be already challenging for that mantle that has belonged to Tiger for such a long time.
A big event underway today for the weekend yet again, Fanatics Fest. Look, I'll be honest with you, Dylan. I love me a Comic-Con. I love horror conventions. I love 90 pop culture cons. I'm all in on this. I went to Fanatics Fest one of the first years out there, and you could see what was growing, but I never expected this. How have they managed to turn this into such a phenomenon?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Comic-Con. It feels like the spot in the market was vacant for so long for an event that kind of stood for fan culture, right? And I think Fanatics has effectively nailed that, right? Obviously, they have a booming collectibles business. They've secured basically all of the important licenses that you could possibly secure at this point. And that kind of collectibles offering sits at the core of Fanatics Fest, but really it's this celebration of fans and sports and culture. So many athletes, entertainers in attendance, and they're investing heavily in the event. I saw they're expected to spend $80 to $90 million on this week. They added a day for this year. Thursday sold out, and so it's just unbelievable what they've created. And I think for where they sit in the industry, they're minting new fans, they're minting new collectors at these events who are going to be likely to be longtime customers. So will very likely be a worthwhile investment, but impressive to watch them kind of create something from nothing, something so big from nothing in only the span of a few short years.
Something massive. It feels like they've almost monopolized the market that they're in. One thing that your newsletter does such a great job of is helping sports fans understand how much their favorite sport is shaped by money. We know that the MLB labor negotiations are shaped a lot by money. That's something that you covered a lot in your newsletter in the last couple of months. What are the most important things for fans to understand as this labor battle unfolds?
Yeah, I think, this week was probably a little bit disheartening if you're an MLB fan who was kind of paying attention to, the labor negotiations and where those stands. Both sides kind of drew their battle lines, so to speak, this week. And the fact of the matter is they're both kind of very fixated on this idea of instituting a salary cap. Obviously, MLB and the ownership in favor of doing so to improve competitive balance in the league. The players see a business that's got huge momentum right now, that's really booming in a way it hasn't in a while, and say, why do we need to fix something that isn't totally broken? And so long as both sides are really united for or against the salary cap, it's going to be tough to find common ground. Now, this is just kind of the beginning of what should be a pretty arduous and long process. So, it's not unexpected that they're far apart, right? But it certainly feels like there's a lot of ground to cover before they can come together. And like we were just talking about with the second apron, once these things end up in CBAs, it's pretty hard to get them out of it. And I think that's especially true of a salary cap, right? Any league that's put one in place, you haven't seen them go in the other direction. So expect the players to be pretty resolute against this idea, because once it happens, toothpaste doesn't go back in the tube, Pandora doesn't go back in the box. Choose your metaphor, but it's really hard to undo. The question will be, I think, if MLB can come to the table with a proposal that's attractive enough to make it palatable to the players, which, huge question mark.
It is going to be a wild offseason. All right, for everybody that's just tuning in for the first time, what's the best way to sign up for the newsletter if they haven't already?
Yeah, yahoosports.com/newsletters. It's Yahoo Sports Biz is the title of the newsletter. We send it Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Really think it's never been more important to understand how money and business dynamics are shaping the product you see on field as fans. So come follow along with us. We're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you can follow him on social media also. Dylan, the first time on the show, definitely not the last. Can't wait to have you on again, my friend. Thanks for the great work you're doing with Yahoo. Glad to be your teammate, brother.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me. Can't wait to be back.
That's great
Thanks
stuff
for being
from
here,
Dylan.
Dylan.
Be sure to get the newsletter. It will make you smarter, and it will help you understand a lot of what you don't already. All right, coming up next, a power struggle in the WNBA. We'll tell you about it.
In today's modern baseball, can a reliever like Mason Miller win a Cy Young?
That's a good question. It would take a year, I think, like this for Mason Miller, a strikeout rate of over 60% on that slider, to make people say, yeah, he deserves the Cy Young. But if it doesn't happen and Mason Miller does this for the rest of the year, it will never happen. I think it's safe in saying that.
Got to get a touchdown on this possession. Stepping up Garrett. Garrett surveying. He wants it all. End zone Flavors is there.
No
but it's
way.
pulled away by
No
Cook.
way.
Cook pulled it out of the air
way.
and out of the hands of Flavors for a Northern Arizona touchdown.
Way. That just happened. In my mind, I'm thinking INT, ball game's over. Marlon Cook says, give me this. I need it.
No referee should ever want to be the difference maker in the fight. We want the fighters to settle that. And you get a lot of people talking about, hey, you should be taking points for this. Every groin shot should be a point taken. Every eye thing should be a point taken. And you look and you go, I wish I could give you a taste of that, because you would hate it. There would be a lot of fighters losing that did not deserve to lose fights based upon the way you want me to do something.
Who is your breakout candidate for this year?
Kind of think Isaiah Likely with the New York Giants is a really good candidate this year. Kind of wide receiver room that could rotate a little bit and be useful players, but they don't, to me, have one dynamic. Even Fields, who I like, I don't know that he's gonna be like a dynamic guy that right off the bus, round 3 rookie, leads the team in targets. I think that could actually be Isaiah Likely. Tight ends on their second contracts have been good bets to make. I think Likely is a good bet to make this year.
WNBA Commissioner Kathy Englebert did not plan to suspend Alyssa Thomas for her incident with Caitlin Clark until Adam Silver urged her to issue that discipline, that per SPJ. But we've also got a WNBA spokesperson that says to Front Office Sports that this is, quote, absolutely false. All of this conjecture about whether or not there was penalty, whether or not Adam Silver got involved. What's it all say? Does it say more to you about Adam Silver or Kathy Englebert, Caroline?
Let me just say for the record, it's bad for everyone. This looks bad for Kathy Englebert. This is, I think, embarrassing for Adam Silver. This is just like all of the commentary throughout the WNBA and WNBA officiating over the last couple of weeks and months has just been embarrassing for the league. But if it looks worse on anyone, it looks the worst for Kathy Englebert. Because there already has been tension between the league and the commissioner. There already have been questions of if Kathy Englebert is the right person, the right liaison, and the right spokesperson for the players. And then now you see here, allegedly, reportedly, Adam Silver had to get involved and essentially tell Kathy Englebert how to do her job. That looks really, really bad on her. And I think it continues to look bad on her. That officiating has been a focal point for this year in the WNBA, and it still isn't right. It still is not at the level that it should be in order to adequately and appropriately protect your players.
I'm torn on who this is worse for, because I think you're right that this says a lot about Kathy, but also Adam Silver sort of picks and chooses when he wants to be involved. Remember when we were talking about the collective bargaining between the WNBA and the WNBPA, Adam Silver made it very clear, oh, that's Kathy, that's not me. I'm not really involved in it. Like, you can't pick and choose when you're going to be involved in what the league needs. You are either a big part of this or you aren't. And you can't come in with the hammer in these instances like you're suddenly the power, because all it does is it cuts Kathy Englebert off at the knees. Now, maybe she deserved that. Maybe she doesn't have the power. I don't know. But questions are created by all of this, whether it's from the report or whether it's from it actually happened. Either way, we already know the players haven't been quiet in their discourse about their lack of trust and their issues with leadership for the WNBA. The players have made it clear how they feel about Kathy Englebert over and over and over again. But all of this just makes me wonder if Kathy Englebert, I use this phrase a lot, is just a meat shield. How long have I said that Roger Goodell isn't really the problem? When you yell at Roger Goodell in the NFL, you're yelling at the wrong person. He's the commissioner. All he's doing is what his owners tell him to do. So instead of yelling at the owner of your favorite team, you yell at the commissioner because it seems easy. That's what we've been doing with Kathy Engelbert. We yell at Kathy Engelbert, but now I'm starting to think that maybe we're displacing all of that. Maybe Kathy Engelbert is just a shield, a prop, a puppet for Adam Silver. And if that's the case, then we need to start asking some serious questions to Adam Silver about exactly what his role is, exactly what the plan is, exactly how he and the NBA view the WNBA. Because certainly it's easy for us to put Kathy and the W in their own bubble. But if we find out now that the commissioner of the NBA is stepping into the commissioner of the W, if that is true, that tells me that we need to start directing our daggers somewhere other than Kathy. If all she is a prop to distract us from what's really happening, then we need to go after the Wizard of Oz. And if that's Adam Silver, then it's time for us to expose the man behind the curtain.
I think, too, it's important to point out that Adam Silver did not publicly come out and tell Kathy Engelbert to suspend Alyssa Thomas. This is something that has been kind of unearthed and reported allegedly that happened behind the scenes. Adam Silver did publicly come out and say the WNBPA negotiations with the league and with Kathy Engelbert are on them. I'm hands off. That's their league. So I do think that Adam Silver, at least publicly, wants to prove to, or maybe create the illusion that he is hands off, that this is Kathy Engelbert's league. But maybe behind closed doors, to your point, it's not as hands off as it might seem, at least publicly.
Which then brings us to this question that we constantly have of what's Kathy Engelbert's tenure going to look like? How much longer does she have running the WNBA? And where I get really torn on this is, Caroline, if she is just a distraction, and we're going to need more reporting. Like, to be fair, we're going to need more reporting from valid sources. We're going to need more information that we can actually trust. But if Kathy Engelbert is essentially just a puppet for Adam Silver, she's got as much time in that job as she wants because it's working. Like, there is this element of, if we've gotten this far into the conversation without yelling at Adam Silver, and he's really the one pulling the strings in charge, he's really the one expected to do these things, Kathy Engelbert's going to be the commissioner of this thing for damn ever. Because why not? It's working if you're doing what you need to do in distracting everybody from the actual decision maker.
Kathy Engelbert was actually asked that question, how long she expects to hold this role and be the WNBA commissioner. And her response was, "You would not have asked me that question if I were a man." Shame on Kathy Engelbert for answering that question that way, for so many reasons. One, the question came from a female reporter. And she said, to the response of Kathy Engelbert saying, we wouldn't have asked the question if I were a man, the reporter said, yes, I would. I very much so would ask that question if you were a man. That response just feels like gaslighting, and it feels like deflecting, and it feels like Kathy Engelbert's way of making the question into something that it's not, trying to create a problem that isn't there because it's trying to distract from her actual response or her actual feelings. I was really disappointed in Kathy Engelbert, a female commissioner of a women's basketball league, trying to make gender a discussion that wasn't even part of the discussion or wasn't even part of the question. She inserted that where it didn't need to be. So shame on Kathy Engelbert for that. But as much as I can criticize Kathy Engelbert for the way that she may go about things, her relations with the players, things that she may come out and say publicly, things that she doesn't come out and say publicly, Kathy Engelbert was also the commissioner that oversaw the most lucrative WNBA CBA in the history of this league. We have the first $1 million women in the history of the WNBA. Kathy Engelbert oversaw this brand new television deal that makes this new CBA possible, that allows players to actually earn livable six-figure wages. Kathy Engelbert is the one that got players off of commercial airlines, and they didn't have to sit and wait out delays like the rest of the masses. Kathy Engelbert has been the leader that has seen the WNBA grow from a league that didn't get a lot of attention to a league that we talk about almost every single day here on this show. Viewership is up. Ticket prices are up. We've seen three brand new expansion teams enter the league over the last couple of years, and we have 3 more coming into the league over the next 3 more years. say what you want about Kathy Englebert, the person, Kathy Englebert, and the relationships that she might have with the players. I hear Nafisa Collier saying that we think we have the worst commissioner in the world. I get it. I understand player frustration. There are plenty of reasons why I have and will continue to criticize Kathy Englebert, but she is a dang good business person, and she has brought a lot of attention and a lot of money to this league.
Very similar to the NFL discussion. Every time an NFL fan tells me that Roger Goodell should be fired, Roger Goodell should not be the commissioner of the NFL. Every time an NFL fan screams about streaming, and they scream always at Roger Goodell, I laugh, because if anybody has something to say about Roger Goodell, all we have to do is look at the valuations. As we talked about earlier in this show today, we just had an NFL team sell for $9 billion. Look at the valuations of WNBA teams and the massive increase since guys like Mark Davis came into the league to what their franchises are worth today. And then ask yourself, who does Kathy Englebert actually work for? She does not work for you and I. She doesn't work for the fans. She doesn't work for the players. She works for the owners. And if every single owner is watching their valuations skyrocket while they're making more money in the arena, she ain't going anywhere, because she's doing the job she has to do for the people that actually pay her. Like, follow the line, follow the dollars and cents, and it makes sense. So from Kathy Englebert to the biggest story in the W last night, Caitlin Clark continues to struggle in her return from injury. 13 points on 4 of 14 shooting. They lost to the Valkyries, but maybe even more important to that, and the part that's going viral right now, got into it with an official again. She didn't like a non-call on one end followed by a call on the other. She if you're any good at lip reading, you know she let that official have it after the game. She, at the press conference, mentioned again that the call was missed, that the officials told her that she initiated contact. She does not agree with that. What do we make of Caitlin's reaction last night?
We have seen Caitlin, react this way to officials a lot. We see a lot of athletes react to officials a lot. Part of that is trying to draw fouls and make it advantageous for you and for your basketball team. Doesn't only happen in the W, doesn't only happen with Caitlin Clark, it happens all the time. But with that being said, I think that if you do it so much, it starts to become the boy who cried wolf, the woman who cried wolf in this instance. I didn't see anything nefarious, at least on that play. Now, if somebody who is a much, much, much smarter basketball mind would like to break it down for me and show me what I'm not seeing, I am truly all ears for it. Genuinely. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Caitlin Clark. I don't care if it's Alyssa Thomas. I don't care what jersey anyone is wearing. All I want is just fairness and consistency and transparency and WNBA officiating. That's what I think we all want. That's what any fan could ask for. I didn't see anything there, so I think that Caitlin Clark needs to be very careful about doing that and picking and choosing her battles more carefully.
Look, star players getting fired up about non-calls, it's just part of sports. I'm tired of complaining about it for everybody.
Tale as old as time.
I mean, the fact is, the ESPYs last night did a whole skit based on the art of flopping, and players were involved in it. Everybody laughs about it now. It's part of sports culture. It's just accept it. Yeah. Get over it. And Caitlin being mad at the officials, that doesn't surprise me at all, because most star players, when they feel like they didn't get the call, freak out. Now, I've seen frame by frame on social media attempts to try and tell me whether it was or wasn't a foul, and I'd say that if we're breaking it down frame by frame, maybe it was a judgment call. And even if it wasn't a judgment call and the official missed it, who cares? Officials miss calls throughout the course of the game, right. Just like star players miss free throws, officials miss calls. It's not that big of a deal. What is the big deal is that it becomes part of the conversation. And you're right, at some point it becomes a defining part of the conversation. Think about the way we talk about Luka and how Luka deals with the refs. And certainly I think there's a grace to understanding that Luka thinks he should get more calls, but there is a reputation Luka has earned. I think it's fair to say that Caitlin has created at least a conversation about the level of reaction she gives. So how that will break, who knows? But what we do know is that Caitlin hasn't played particularly well since coming back from the back injury. What matters most for the Fever isn't whether she's yelling at the refs, it's whether she gets healthy enough to contribute the way she needs to in the back half of the season. All right, speaking of contributions in health, we'll figure out what's going to happen for one NFL superstar. How about Micah Parsons, and when or if he's going to get back on the field? What's it all mean for the Packers? We'll talk to an expert next. Cahoon sends the motion. The motion stops short. That was just an easy, it rips away. Cannot be stopped. What a move down to the 12-yard line. Huge catch right there.
Yeah, Red Douglas, they got him open in space. You saw in the motion he hesitated. That's a tough play for a safety. He's coming downhill on a quick 5-yard route. All you have to do is make one man miss, and Red Douglas does a great job of making his man miss.
Jaylen Brown is one of the 20 best players in basketball, and they just let him be traded from Boston to Philadelphia for 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and Paul George. What's the league seeing that everybody else with eyeballs can't see? I don't get it. How does 35-year-old Kawhi Leonard go for more? How does Walker Kessler go for more? It just doesn't make any sense.
Jerome Johnson, standout quarterback. He's looking deep and he's throwing deep and he's got a man, and it is a touchdown. Sugar Skulls, Jerron Waters wide open for the score.
I mean, one of the most challenging routes to defend. I mean, he ran a post from one side of the field to the other, and if you're by yourself as a defensive back, good luck with that.
How do you feel about the Seahawks skill players at this point in time?
The good part, I think, if you're a Seahawks fan, what you would argue here is that outside of Cooper Kupp, like, everybody should, I think, have another step to take. It's not impossible that JSN does this again, but you bake in some, I'm not like negative against the player, but just a little regression there. The way you offset that is younger guys and other players step up.
Ian Rappaport tweets out, Packers star Micah Parsons makes clear that he'll begin the 2026 season on the PUP list. That's the physically unable to perform list, offering a target of mid-October until he's on the field. With a long career ahead, no shortcuts, but certainly this is a team with great aspirations this year. So we're joined now by Packers content creator, founder of Cheesehead TV, Aaron Nagler. Aaron, can the defense stay afloat without their best player?
Man, you're asking the $10 billion question there. Everybody in Green Bay is wondering, right? I think they can, mostly due to their offense. It's kind of funny. You don't think first on the offensive side of the ball when you're talking defense, but in Green Bay, I think that's going to have to be the case. They've got a ton of continuity there. A quarterback entering his prime, essentially, as a starter there for the Packers. Matt LaFleur, there's a lot of familiarity with the pieces, all the position players, etc. I mean, I don't want to say it's as easy as they just got to score 30 a week, but that has to be the game plan, you would think, as far as keeping that defense, A, fresh, B, off the field as much as possible. And then when they do have to get on the grass and take on these offenses, the big question is, where's the pass rush going to come from? You got former first-rounder Lucas Van Ness. There's a lot riding on his plate. They've got a bevy of young guys that they've invested in over the years that are going to have to step up, but it's all projection. Some might call it hope. And I think a big component, again, is going to be about the offense controlling these football games while waiting for a defense that's going to probably have to gel. It's a new scheme, new defensive coordinator with Jonathan Gannon, while they're waiting for Micah Parsons to return.
I know that football coaches and football execs don't and can't think this way, but we can, and what we do.
Right. We're allowed.
Yeah, we're allowed to. We get a pass. Who would you say at this point right now is winning the Micah Parsons trade?
Well, I think it's a default to the Cowboys only because Micah's been off the field for a good stretch now and will be for the first part of this season, right? And when you look at what Kenny Clark can give them and the way they turned around the draft capital, will probably continue to do so next year. Sure, for the short term, if you want to say at this moment, it's easy to say the Cowboys because, again, Micah, who played phenomenal football for the Packers while he was on the field, losing his services and then going on and losing all of the games he didn't play in certainly shows the importance that the player has. But you're talking about who is winning currently the trade, I would acquiesce to the Cowboys.
Which is so interesting because you're right. It is short-term, long-term, and I think we won't know the answer for several years. We'll get an answer quickly on the change of defensive coordinator this season. Jeff Hafley regarded enough that he becomes a head coach. Jonathan Gannon comes in. Remember, he became a head coach because he was a great defensive coordinator. How big of a change will that create for this defense in your mind?
I think there's a possibility that it's an actual upgrade as far as the scheme goes, the fit with the personnel. And, it's weird because Hafley's first year in Green Bay as defensive coordinator in 2024, I thought he did a much better job overall. Now, you add Micah Parsons, you think, well, there's the easy button, right? But for whatever reason, it didn't really gel the way I think most people were expecting it to, especially after those first two games. I mean, they dominated Detroit, dominated Washington. You had players in the locker room talking Super Bowl, going undefeated. And then they lay a complete egg against the Cleveland Browns. And then the rest of the season, it was very uneven. And that's not all on Hafley in the defense. But he did much better work in 2024 with lesser personnel. I think if you add Gannon and his scheme, and one of the reasons I would suspect LaFleur really kind of gravitated to Gannon is he's had issues both times he's gone up against Gannon as a play caller. He knows some of the kind of problems and the uniqueness of his scheme that will give offensive coordinators problems. Again, I think it's going to take some time to gel, but I do suspect there's a decent chance that it's an upgrade overall just because, Gannon's track record is pretty damn good in the NFL. I mean, we know Hafley was coming from college, certainly did a good job, but I think Gannon's got more pelts on the wall and has the opportunity, again, to be a bit of an upgrade.
One of our colleagues here at Yahoo Sports and the host of Football 301, Nate Tice, consistently ranks Jordan Love as a top 5, top 10 quarterback in the league. He loves Jordan Love.
It's because Nate's a smart guy. That's why.
Okay, well then how do Packers fans feel about Jordan Love?
I think most Packers fans do recognize how good he is. I think there's always going to be a section of the fan base that until there's a ring on his finger and a new trophy in the case there at Titletown, will always be viewing him through a certain prism, i.e. he's not Aaron Rodgers, which of course he can't be, and he doesn't need to be. What's fascinating is I do think last year really brought a lot of people around. We've seen glimpses, we've seen stretches, right? Particularly that first year as a starter, the tail end of that year, 2023, really went on a monster tear. I think getting hurt week 1 in 2024 certainly shadowed everything that season. But last year, he was incredibly efficient. One of the least turnover-prone quarterbacks in the league, though it's wild how the conversation around him rarely kind of acknowledges that reality. But yeah, as I said before, I think he's, heading into year 4 as a starter, he's going to be reaching the height of his powers, and that's what's scary for oppositions. They haven't seen his best yet. He's still continuing to get better. But I think most Packers fans really appreciate Jordan's approach, how he is as a player, and still a lot of upside there, a lot of growth still to be seen from number 10 for the green and gold.
I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm conservative with quarterbacks. I like to get 3 years, and I know that's people in hell want ice water. I like 3 years. So I think last year was an important year because he did show efficiency. As we go into this season, knowing how clean he played and how well he played at times, and how much LaFleur has done with this offense, are they getting the respect they deserve as a tandem, head coach and quarterback, compared to some of the other head coach quarterback tandems that we have in the NFL?
I don't think so, but I understand it because they've bowed out early the last couple of years in the playoffs, and that's what colors people's perceptions throughout an offseason. I think, and I've said this repeatedly at Cheesehead TV, once they find more team accomplishment, i.e. win the division, win a couple playoff games, they'll start to get the respect and the accolades and put on these top 10 lists, etc. But until that happens, I think people are always going to be looking at the flaws, looking at the problems and things like that. But, man, you can't deny the work that both Jordan and Matt have done as far as being a duo that has grown together. And to your point, so efficient last year. And that's with a porous offensive line. I mean, last year was some of the worst offensive line play we've seen from the Green Bay Packers, and I would say over a decade, right? So such a big component is if you keep Jordan Love clean, and the metrics bear this out, if he's in a clean pocket, he is going to tear you apart. Your defense does not stand much of a chance. So that is, in Green Bay, the number one kind of conversation point, I would say, around the team is if the offensive line can be better, they can cook. Jordan Love can put up some serious numbers, but it does start up front, and it is a big question in 2026.
I'm so happy we have you on the show, Aaron, for so many reasons, but one of them being to get a good pulse on the fan base. We might feel one way and the fans might feel a totally different way, just being so much closer to it. And I do feel like sometimes things just run its course. Sometimes time is the thing that breeds resentment between a fan base and a respective player.
Sure.
In this case, a coach. Matt LaFleur now going into what, year 7, year 8 as the head
Year
coach
8,
as the
yeah.
Green Bay Packers. Crazy. Time flies. What is the temperature of the fan base on Matt LaFleur?
Well, that playoff exit in Chicago certainly did not help. Let's put it that way. There's little doubt that there is a very, and I mean extremely vocal part of the fan base that seems to be growing a little bit when it comes to being frustrated with Matt LaFleur. With that said, I do think most Packers fans appreciate what he's done so far in his tenure. It is odd to think how long he's been in town without a title, and now he's gotten a contract extension. I mean, we're bucking against history here. You know, John Madden being the only coach who won a title after being in a town this long without one. You know, that's, I mean, in all the history of the league, that's the only time it's happened. So that's what Matt LaFleur is trying to gun for, right? And I think Packers fans, again, recognize he is a good coach. But the continuous stubbing of the toe in the playoffs, coming up short, some of the maddening, frustrating decisions in game management and things like that, I understand that it's maybe, again, swelled the ranks, so to speak, of the disgruntled. And you know how it is online. The disgruntled are the ones who get all the attention, right? They take up all the oxygen. I do think there are plenty of Packers fans who very much appreciate LaFleur, understand why he was retained. But like I said, the malcontents are certainly getting louder.
Well, you're 1,000% right. The loudest oftentimes wins. You've got a running back that's a superstar that's not a loud person in any way in Josh Jacobs. Josh obviously has meant so much to this franchise, but did battle through some injuries. He's 28. I'm not going to say he's old. I think he's just hitting some peak time here. What are your expectations for Josh in this offense?
Well, I mean, we've certainly got to hold our breath a little bit on the off-field stuff. He's still kind of hanging out there as far as what the DA in Brown County might do. But given the fact that we haven't heard anything yet, we've got to suspect, he's going to be there in a couple weeks when vets report and hit the ground running in training camp. I would say you look at his history, throughout his entire career, going back to his time with the Raiders, he does seem to have this on-again, off-again kind of annual turn when it comes to his output. Last year being the downward spiral part of it, and now you would suspect he's going to bounce back. He is getting older. He does have a lot of, wear on the tire, so to speak. But I will say, I think a big part of his downward output last year is due strictly to injuries and fighting through injuries, which is what you want a player to do. We hear this all the time, like, oh, it's just this or it's just that. He could play if he wanted to, and then guys don't. They sit and fans grumble about it. Well, Josh fought like hell through a lot of different injuries last year to get on the field and was still somewhat productive, but certainly not the dynamic presence he was his first year in Green Bay. I think as long as Matt LaFleur is the play caller, he's going to get opportunities. Matt loves to run the ball. He loves to run Josh between the tackles. And I think we're going to continue to see that. Again, a big component of this is, can the offensive line be a little bit better? It's tough enough making yardage in the NFL, yards after contact, when you've got a head of steam and you're across the line of scrimmage. Josh had to do a ton of work last year at or behind the line of scrimmage just to make a positive gain out of what was going to be a negative. I think there's little doubt that he's still going to be a focal point of the offense. It is going to be interesting to see if they lean on Jordan Love a little bit more this year rather than, pounding their head against a wall for, a couple downs before they let Jordan Love throw it.
I expect the NFC North to be an absolute rock fight this season. Which one of Green Bay's rivals scares you the most in the division?
Nothing scares me except maybe my children. But I think when you look at the teams and the way they kind of match up, I don't doubt for a moment that Detroit's going to be tough, right? There's zero doubt about it. Dan Campbell is a hell of a coach, and they've got the personnel to win a lot of games, and they're going to be a tough out each and every week. But I got to say, with the Bears and Ben Johnson coming on board and Caleb really finding his game last year, there's little doubt that I think those are the two matchups that the Packers will have circled. While they're not going to make too much of it and talk about it publicly, the way things went down last year, they're going to want to get theirs back, so to speak. But you look at it, I think each one of these games is going to be tough, right? It's, like you said, definitely a rock fight and definitely good matchups. I don't think there's any two teams that you look at and say, well, this one's completely going to run over the other one. I think they're all going to be tough games, and I think they're all going to be well-fought, close football contests. But, yeah, if there's the one that you think, okay, they showed that they know how to beat the Packers and come back on the Packers and maybe exploit some of their tendencies and things of that nature, yeah, you got to look at the Bears, number one.
This division is going to be wild. I think it's locked in to be the best division in the league this year. Best we always think means like the absolute best teams. I think if I'm looking floor to ceiling, this is the most compact division of good football teams, not bad ones. Follow him. You can check him out on Twitter, X, at Aaron Nagler, and then Cheesehead TV. That's where you can watch all the content out there on social media. Aaron, we really appreciate your time. Best of luck this season. Got to come out and hang out with us when the Packers are inevitably headed to the Super Bowl, my friend.
Absolutely. I'll be here. Thanks so much for the invite.
That's great stuff from Aaron. It's going to be a great season for the Packers. Speaking of great seasons, could the Eagles go from first to worst? We'll tell you about it next.
Cahoon comes back up, and we'll see if they do another quarterback sneak type play, a tush push type play. He's right up under center. And this time they hand off. Almost had him in the backfield, but cannot be stopped, cannot be contained. That is a huge touchdown for Billy Bowens.
How would you describe that guy who was sitting here in August?
Well, truth be told, it's what you said. I was crushed. I wasn't sure how to feel about it, everything. It's like you have this dream, as a kid to be somewhere, and you really, really feel like you're supposed to be there. And you know what's working and you know what doesn't, but you're willing to try to keep making it work. I can't even be mad or frustrated about how things have happened. I've had experiences in my life since August that would have not happened had I stayed.
2024 IFL MVP Jerome Johnson, second game ever as a Tucson Sugar Skull, facing this 3rd and 11. Steps up, fires deep, and Lofton's there. One-handed catch, touchdown, Sugar Skulls. Are you kidding me?
Yo! That was nasty right there.
I thought he overthrew him. I really did. And then he just reached out, bang, grabbed it.
The starting price for a low 4-star. So low 4-star would be, we could be talking the 350th best player in the country. $350,000.
So 300 to 400 individuals a year, let's say roughly, are getting a 4-star ranking. 350K on average? That feels correct.
I saw that number and I thought, it seems low.
My man,
that was my reaction.
Ross.
Bears versus Panthers, week 1. Chicago and Carolina will open the season with a matchup between former number 1 overall picks. That game right around the corner, and it gets us a chance to look at some of the best teams in the NFC and figuring out if they're going to stay there. How long can they hold on to their division crowns? We're going to do what we like to do here. Now, first to worst. Everybody can do the opposite. We're going to take good teams and figure out if they're about to free fall like Tom Petty all the way to the bottom. Today's the NFC edition. We'll take a look at each of the division winners and figure out from last season, figure out if they can make a case that they'll go all the way to the bottom. Let's start with the Bears. We were just talking about the Packers on this show. Could you make a case for the Bears going from first all the way ... to worst?
No, I can't do that. I am such a Bears believer. We just had Aaron Nagler, who's the on Cheesehead TV on. We asked him which team scares you the most in the division, and he said the Chicago Bears. I mean, Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, those two together in their second year together. Year one is kind of an experimental phase, right? You're feeling out your quarterback's kind of starting to get to know you. Ben Johnson is a brilliant offensive mind that can tailor his offense to what makes the quarterback comfortable and what the quarterback can do best. So now you have an entire season and a couple of playoff games under your belt. I expect them to come out swinging even better. I expect the Bears offense to take that much more of a step forward. They added a couple pieces to the defense this past offseason. So I can make the case that maybe the Bears won't win the division. Tucker Kraft comes back healthy. If the Packers offensive line gets upgraded, once Micah Parsons comes back and is healthy toward the back half of the season, I can make the case that the Bears wouldn't win the division. I cannot make the case that the Bears fall all the way to last place in the NFC North.
I like the Bears a lot, but I can make the case that they head to the last place just because there's so much to like from so many other teams there. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The Vikings last year had one of the worst quarterback seasons in NFL history from J.J. McCarthy. Literally, statistically, one of the worst we've ever seen. And they finished 9-8. 9-8. They only finished 2 games back of the Bears, and they had hot garbage at the quarterback position. So if the Vikings can even get mediocre quarterback play, if J.J. McCarthy turns out this year just to not be a big old barrel of suck, or if Kyler Murray has anything like what he's had in his good years with Arizona, Vikings going to win a couple more games. All of a sudden, yeah, we get the Vikings. I can get the Vikings to 10 wins. No problem if I'm trying. Also, the Lions, absolutely decimated by injuries last year. Plus, we all know going into last year, they lost what felt like their entire coaching staff. And for all of the just you-know-what show that we saw from them, they finished 9-8. So I'm looking across the board and saying, man, if the Lions are healthy this year, they're right back to 10, 11 wins. If the Vikings get even remotely decent quarterback play, they're back to 10, 11 wins. If the Packers are any good, let's see, they're 9-7-1 last year. Can the Packers get an extra win out of all that? Yeah. Last place last year in the NFC North was 9-8. Detroit finished in last place at 9-8. So if the Bears take an itty bitty step back, it gets them from first to worst. Doesn't mean that I don't love Chicago. I want to be clear. I think Chicago is a really good Bears fans. Don't at me. I think you got a playoff team that you should be really proud of. I love Caleb. I love your coach. But the way things stack up in this division, I don't know. I think this is the hardest division to predict in the NFL this year, and it's not even close. So that's how I get the Bears from first to worst, not because of any discredit to Chicago. Please, again, Bears fans, don't at me. Let's go and see if we can make a case for A.J. Brownless Eagles. Yeah, my Twitter is at Caroline Fenton 1. That's the way you get to me. All right, so no A.J. Brown for the Eagles. Can we make a case that Philly drops from first all the way to worst?
There's a lot I don't like about Philadelphia. I'm big on vibes. That's the reason why we have the football vibe index here on Yahoo Sports Daily. And the Eagles were at like a -50 on the vibe scale last year. The positivity bunny just didn't do it for me. You lose one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League, that doesn't make you better. But still, with all of those things, with the gauntlet of a schedule that Philadelphia has this season, not having A.J. Brown, and yet another offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts, who's had about 75 different offensive coordinators in the last 15 minutes. I still can't make an argument that the Eagles are going to be a worse football team than the Commanders or the Giants. Now, I do expect the Commanders to be improved this year because I've seen what Jaden Daniels is capable of when he's healthy in his rookie season. So if he can stay healthy, I don't think the Commanders are going to have as brutal of a season as they did last year. Now, for the Giants, a lot of that is kind of relies on Malik Nabers' health. If Malik Nabers is healthy and available and 100% for the better part of 17 games, then sure, we can have the discussion about the Giants not being below 500. But I still can't find a way with just all of the talent that the Eagles have on their roster. And the fact that they have won double-digit games every year. And how many of the last several years? The fact that we're just 2 years removed from a Super Bowl and they have a large part of that core still intact. Just with the talent alone, I cannot make the argument that they're going to fall all the way to worst.
Yeah, the problem with that argument that they fall to worst is there's too much suck in their division. Are we really sure the Commanders are just going to write everything? I know last year went way too far off the rails, so I'm trying not to overreact. Like year 1 of Jaden Daniels, they exceeded expectation. Year 2 of Jaden Daniels, obviously injuries play a part and everything goes sort of to hell in a handbasket for the Commanders. I just don't know where the normal line is for the Commanders, and I don't really know what to expect for the Giants. I love this concept of Jackson Dart and Cam and everybody suddenly aligning and the gods all smile on New York and Harbaugh's a perfect coach, and immediately there's a massive increase in wins, and boom, the Giants have turned the corner. But man, I've got to find an extra 5 wins, 6 wins on the schedule for the Giants, an extra 4 or 5 wins for the Commanders, and then I've got to turn into an extra 3 or 4 losses for the Eagles. It's too much. And let's see what the Cowboys do. I think the Cowboys are going to be much better. I would pick the Cowboys to win this division. I just can't find the Eagles all the way to last place. All right, let's go next. This one's going to be tough. Super Bowl winning Seattle Seahawks. The Super Bowl winner, I should remind everybody, the defending Super Bowl champion, Seattle Seahawks. Can we get them from first to worst in the AFC and the NFC West?
I can make the case for them falling to third in the NFC West. And that has far more to do with the Niners and the Rams than it does me not believing in the Seahawks. But they did just lose the Super Bowl MVP in Kenneth Walker. I think that we have to acknowledge that. That matters. Yes, you still have Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba, but you're also losing your offensive coordinator as well. So I would argue to say 2 of the most important pieces of your offense are gone. So I can also make the case that, the San Francisco 49ers, if they can stay healthy, and that's a big fat if, that they could leapfrog the Seahawks. The Rams, I don't really have to sell anybody on the Rams because if you're not sold already, then you're just not paying attention. So I could very much make the case that the Seahawks fall to third. And I think that you can be third in this division and still win 10 games. The Arizona Cardinals might be the worst team in the NFL. I think they're far more in competition for the number 1 overall pick than they are anything else in the NFC West. So no, I can't make the argument for first to worst because I believe too much in Mike McDonald in this defense and what they ask Sam Darnold to do in this offense. And I believe far too much in how bad the Arizona Cardinals could be.
Yeah, the Cardinals just stink. I'm sorry. The Cardinals are so tragically bad that it's going to be horrific to watch them play football this season. There is no hope in Arizona. I'm sorry. There just isn't. So I can't get the Seahawks personally any lower than second. Yeah, the schedule is brutal. It's a disaster. I think the Cardinals know that. The Cardinals are just getting through this year to try and start their rebuild, and then let's hope that there are better days ahead for Cardinals fans. I struggle to find a way where the 49ers stay healthy, so I'll say I'm out on San Francisco. I do agree with you. The loss of Kenneth Walker and frankly, the loss of Clint Kubiak becomes a difference for them. Anytime coaches change, it makes me nervous. So I can take Seattle down to second. I think that's a reasonable expectation because, frankly, if the Rams don't win the West, given the way this roster is stacked and the constant speculation that they're not done yet adding to it, Aaron Donald's going to be added to it. If that's the case, man, you got to just hand this division to the Rams. So I think it'd be wildly disappointing if the Rams don't win this division. But I'd be stunned to see the Seahawks, for me, fall any lower than second. At third, maybe you could talk me into it. No way getting all the way to last. All right, finally, this one in a weird division. I'm saying weird politely. All right, weird kind of like in the South when they say bless your heart, they don't really mean bless your heart. Or when a sovereign citizen in a court case says respectfully, and they don't mean respectfully. This is a weird division. The Carolina Panthers won the NFC South with an 8-9 record. Can we make a case for the Panthers going from first at 8-9 to worst?
Yeah, because I think that this division is so gross and icky and mucky. You call it weird. I think that's being kind. This division is trash. So I am not a non-believer in the Carolina Panthers. I live a hop and a skip away from Bank of America Stadium where the Carolina Panthers play. I want them to be good because my Sundays would be significantly more fun if they were good. But they barely won the division last year. It took like a mental gymnastics type of tiebreaker for the Carolina Panthers to win the division last year. So I think that this division this margin for error is so slim because there's just a whole lot of suck in this division. So it might just take losing one more game than you lost this past season to separate you from the first team in the division to the worst team in the division. So they lose Rico Dowdle, who was a really big part of a lot of the games that they won this past season. They do bring in some pieces defensively, which I think was absolutely positively necessary because the defense needed some help last year. Maybe we're still trying to figure out what Bryce Young is. maybe Bryce Young is a little bit of everything that we've seen so far in his NFL career. And while we have seen some really good from Bryce Young, we have seen some really bad from Bryce Young. So maybe we just don't see any of that consistency this season. Yes, absolutely. This division is wide open, in my opinion.
In the offseason, I like to apply universal benefit of the doubt or lack thereof. So what I mean by that is, if you're a Panthers fan and you think, you know what, Bryce Young just started and everything's going to be great, we're presuming that everything goes great for Carolina. Then we have to also presume everything goes great for the Buccaneers, the Falcons, and the Saints. We have to apply it universally across the board. If that happens in this division, if Bryce Young continues to ascend, all of a sudden the Panthers look like they're a legitimate contender and things are far different in the tone we have about this division. But I have to apply that universally, which means Baker's healthy, the Bucs are healthy, big year for them. We've seen how good they can be. It also means that the Falcons, who went 8-9 again with terrible quarterback play last year, the Falcons unlock a little bit extra this year at the quarterback position. They have a better season, and the Saints were playing a lot better by the end of the year. Maybe Tyler Shuck is the answer, and we didn't know it. Maybe they do finally take that next step forward. If I want to apply universal benefit of the doubt, I can still find a way that gets to Carolina to third, second in the division, no matter what. If I want to take the opposite of that, man, what if this implodes for everybody? If it implodes for Carolina, it implodes just like everybody else. So it's easy for me in a division that was decided by razor-thin margins of suck. It is really easy for me to figure out how to get that and turn it into all of a sudden a terrible situation for everybody. So yes, I can go from first to worst, no problem. One team, by the way, that we didn't mention in our first to worst conversation that we should in the news, the Dallas Cowboys. For anyone that didn't see the update, Jory did some great reporting on it, as George Pickens is not going to be franchised. There will be no long-term deal for him. So George Pickens is going to remain on a one-year deal for $27.3 million, Caroline. Obviously, this puts all eyes on Dallas. It puts all eyes on the pressure for Dallas in this offense. Puts all eyes on Pickens, too. He's got 1 year because they won't be able to franchise him again next year. You got to expect big things.
Absolutely, especially after the year that he had last year. We talk so much about CeeDee Lamb for good reason. I think that CeeDee Lamb is one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. But it was George Pickens that led that team in receiving last year. It was George Pickens that was an even bigger part of the monster MVP caliber year that we saw from Dak Prescott last season. Now, I would say if he played for 31 of any other teams in the National Football League, that this would mean that this is his final year in Dallas. But we know that this is how old Jera does his business. He extends things out. He waits until the 11th hour to give out extensions. Contract negotiations drag on and on and on. We saw it with CeeDee Lamb. We saw it with Micah Parsons. We saw it with Dak Prescott. So I do leave the door open for the fact that George Pickens could be a Dallas Cowboy long term. They're just extending it out as long as possible. I don't get why they do that. It is not advantageous financially, but it is what they do. I don't understand a lot of the things that Jerry Jones does. But it's not to say that George Pickens is playing for his next contract, whether that is in Dallas or elsewhere. This is his opportunity to earn that next big payday.
I don't understand why Jerry spends his money the way he spends it. I also don't understand why rich people spend a lot of money on caviar. I think it's kind of gross, but at the end of the day, they do, and it works for them. This works for Jerry. At the end of the day, how many times have we seen this weird constant contract situation with the Dallas Cowboys? They'll figure out George Pickens if they want to figure out George Pickens. But realistically, this is a Cowboys offense that was stacked. I didn't see any way that they weren't going to have Pickens and CeeDee back this year. Now the question becomes, what will the future look like? But if there's anything we know about Jerry Jones, he'll worry about the future when he gets to the future. All right, more to come on the Cowboys because they're the Cowboys and all of it. Coming up next, we'll take a look at some of the biggest NBA storylines you might have missed from Adam Silver in Summer League. We'll tell you about it.
In today's modern baseball, can a reliever like Mason Miller win a Cy Young?
That's a good question. It would take a year, I think, like this for Mason Miller, a strikeout rate of over 60% on that slider, to make people say, yeah, he deserves the Cy Young. But if it doesn't happen and Mason Miller does this for the rest of the year, it will never happen. I think it's safe in saying that.
Got to get a touchdown on this possession. Stepping up Garrett. Garrett surveying. He wants it all. End zone. Flavors is there,
No
but it's
way.
pulled away by
No
Cook.
way.
Cook pulled it out of the
No
air
way.
and out of the hands of Flavors for a Northern Arizona touchdown.
Way. That just happened. In my mind, I'm thinking INT, ball game's over. Marlon Cook says, give me this. I need it.
No referee should ever want to be the difference maker in the fight. We want the fighters to settle that. And you get a lot of people talking about, hey, you should be taking points for this. Every groin shot should be a point taken. Every eye thing should be a point taken. And you look and you go, I wish I could give you a taste of that, because you would hate it. There would be a lot of fighters losing that did not deserve to lose fights based upon the way you want me to do something.
Who is your breakout candidate for this year?
Kind of think Isaiah Likely with the New York Giants is a really good candidate this year. Kind of wide receiver room that could rotate a little bit and be useful players, but they don't, to me, have one dynamic. Even Fields, who I like, I don't know that he's gonna be like a dynamic guy that right off the bus, round 3 rookie, leads the team in targets. I think that could actually be Isaiah Likely. Tight ends on their second contracts have been good bets to make. I think Likely is a good bet to make this year.
Yeah, I'm done with 2026 Cal Raleigh. Massive black hole in the middle of the lineup with absolutely zero reassurance that a turnaround is coming. A useless hitter. These are the things that social media have to say. Because when social media is good to you, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. We're going to figure out how to talk that Mariners fan off the ledge and perhaps provide some hope with Seattle Mariners legend Mike Cameron. Mike, you're a special assignment coordinator for the team, all right? You know this team better than anybody. We, big Dumper fans on the show. We spent all last season talking about him. What's gone wrong this year for Cal?
You may have broken him with that question.
Let's see. Where we at?
I think we had him. We'll get Mike back in just a second. All right, Mike,
There
we
we
got you
go.
back now. All right, what's gone wrong with Cal this season?
I don't have the true answer to this, but in baseball terms, it could be possibly something with injury, just trying to do what he did, a part of what he did last year. It could be a combination of things, just getting into the season and having the World Baseball Classic interrupt his progression over spring training. But who knows, man? I just know that as I was just recently with them, he had a little bit of a mechanical flaw, and they seem to got that worked out, and he started to get back in this.
Seems like we've lost Mike again. We will effort getting Mike back. And I think that's one of the things, Caroline, is we effort getting him back. That's toughest about this in baseball terms is that sometimes you're on a heater and sometimes you're not. And I know that's oversimplification for everybody, but the hardest thing is that when the season starts to go, if things go wrong, how do you reverse that trend, right? Like we on this show spent so much time talking about the importance of Cal Raleigh last season, what he meant as an MVP finalist for everybody. We looked at this and thought, man, this is unstoppable. And this year, it just hasn't been there. And I don't know how you fix that in the middle of a season.
It's hard too, because I think baseball is such a mental sport. Sports are in general just mental. But baseball players, I think more than any other sport, at least that I've seen, can get in their own heads. They're more superstitious than any other athletes out there. I've never hidden my Cardinals fandom. I'm born and raised in St. Louis. And when I was growing up in St. Louis, there was a pitcher named Rick Ankiel. He was one of the best pitchers in the National League. Then one day, he woke up and could not throw the ball over the plate. Could not throw the ball from the mound to first base. It was the craziest phenomenon. He went to go see sports psychologists. He did yoga. He took time off. He did all of these things. He used every single tool at his disposal to figure out just what went wrong in his brain that he went from one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball to all of a sudden he can't throw the ball over the plate. I do wonder, and that's one thing I'd love to ask Mike while we have him, just being in the mind of a baseball player, being a baseball player himself, how much of a mental aspect could be at play here with Cal Raleigh?
Well, we bring Mike back in now. We'll find out. Mike, how much of this is mental? How do you fix it?
Look at my shirt.
Oh, look at that. Designed to improve mental health.
It is one of the most prized things that go along in baseball, and you're trying your best to not really batter your mind over and over again. So I heard you guys talking while my connection was all off a little bit, but the baseball guys are constantly tinkering. They are trying to get themselves in a position to be consistent as possible. The mind plays tricks on you sometimes, and it's your own mind.
No, we
Some
lost him
reason.
again. We
I
have
don't know.
tried a valiant effort here this morning as we try to get Mike back with us. We'll see what we can do. And the internet's a powerful, powerful thing, Caroline. I also, while
It
we're
is.
efforting Mike, I want to say too, I think this is why so often in sports, no matter which league we're talking about, you hear we'll get him next year. You hear this is the beginning of something. Seattle's a great example of how we felt about Seattle a few months ago versus how we feel about Seattle today. Is a reminder that you have to take advantage of the opportunities as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline that's coming up in Major League Baseball. And you look at teams and ask, should they be all in on buying or selling? I think the reason that I always look at it and say, if you're in proximity, go buy, is because the future truly isn't guaranteed in sports. The concept that this is the beginning of something is flawed constantly. Go get it while you can get it. If you're Seattle, you felt great about it. Now you're looking around saying, how do we fix this thing in just a few months?
Yeah, and they did go all in at the trade deadline last year, and I thought that was the right decision to make. That you worry about the tab that's going to come due in a couple of years. You worry about that in a couple of years. You worry about 2032 in 2031. But in 2025 is, last year, the last year's version of the Mariners, you worry about 2025. You find yourself in a position that you feel like you can actually make a push to win a championship. You have an AL MVP caliber player, one of the best players in the league, one of the best, most explosive hitters in the league. You capitalize on that. So if the Mariners find themselves in a sticky situation in a couple of years because of the decisions that they made while trying to contend for a championship, then so be it. You worry about that then. Because we know the shelf life of front office members in any sport, professional sport, it's like the shelf life of a gallon of milk. We know that any day you could wake up next season, the year after that, even next week, and you could lose your job. So, I actually talked to Mike Norvell, the Florida State head football coach, yesterday. And he told me, I do not fear failure. I do fear regrets. And I think that was a really good kind of peek into the mind of a coach and probably of a front office member as well. You don't want to live with the regret of not going for it one year, but you can live with the fact that you might get fired because of the decisions that you're making right now because they feel like they're going to help your team right now. I think it's a good reminder too. Dan Campbell said this, Lions head coach. I'm just dipping into a bunch of different leagues here. He mentioned, he's like, look, there's no guarantee that we're going to be back in this place next year. That was after the 2024 postseason. The Lions had a great year in 2024, had a playoff push. And then what happened in 2025? They missed the postseason altogether. So he was right. It was a harrowing reminder that nothing in sports, in this case, Major League Baseball, in that case, in the NFL, nothing is guaranteed. It's easy for us to say as fans. We always say, there was not for sports, there'd be no next year. But for actual clubs, for coaches, for players, you have to look at every single year as its own individual entity. And for the Mariners, you've seen the highest of highs last season and some of the lowest of lows this year.
But the crazy thing about it is the abject disaster, and I'm being kind, of the American League this year still leaves the window open, right? Like, that's one of the crazy things as we start to go to the second half of the baseball season is that the Mariners are a game below 500. That's not where they want to be. They're a game and a half out in their own division. They're right in the thick of the wild card standings right now. Anybody can go on a run in the second half in the AL because the AL has left the window open for basically everybody. When you look across this league, there's been so much mediocre mid. I've been saying bad, and maybe that's too harsh, but there's a lot of mediocre mid-range baseball. So what you have are a ton of teams that are within 4, 5, 6 games of 500, all battling to try and find their way into the playoffs. A lot of times, if you're sitting where the Mariners are right now, at this point in the season, you feel like your entire season is lost and there's nothing left to play for. But Caroline, certainly because of the wide open window that has become the AL this year, as you look right now in the AL wildcard standings, The Yankees, the Guardians are the top two. The Mariners are in third in the wild card standings, tied with the Twins. Right?
Yeah.
They're right in the thick of it. So for everything, and this is the hardest part about it, for everything that's gone wrong for Cal Raleigh and for everything that hasn't been right for the Mariners, they are one hot streak, one good week away from finding themselves in a much different situation in this year's AL.
And they're only a game and a half back of the Rangers in the division. And look, the Astros are a game and a half back of the Mariners, so it's tight at the top of the AL West. And on July 16th, anything can happen over the span of the next, several weeks, now that we're just getting into the back half of the season. But I think there's two different ways to look at it. Is this team performing as well as the one last year? No. Is Cal Raleigh in the AL MVP conversation? No. But if you can find yourself in the dance, that's the only thing that matters. Find yourself in the postseason, and that's the advantageous thing about an expanded postseason in Major League Baseball. Once you find yourself there, anything can happen. Is there a chance that the Mariners could go one and done and find themselves watching the rest of majority of the postseason at home? Yeah, absolutely there is. But if you can find yourself in the postseason after what has felt like an underwhelming season, then great. You give yourself an opportunity and a chance.
Well, we'll give ourselves an opportunity and a chance to try and get Mike Cameron back. We got Mike back now. We got Mike. I see Mike. I didn't even know we had Mike. We've got Mike back now. Oh, this is what an adventure. We're on an adventure this morning. That is absolutely the truth, my friend. We're on an adventure. We appreciate your patience with it. We've waxed about this Mariners team. What sort of vibe and message is there around a team that, while it hasn't gone as well as they expect this year, they're still in the thick of it?
And that is a very chic freeze frame.
I think it's me.
Adjusting his glasses.
I think it's me. That is the fact. I think it's me. We will work on getting Mike and getting technology to work. In the meantime, I think we'll take a break. We'll try and figure out if we can get Mike's technology to work. We will have Mike on, but we'll try and do that. We'll take a look at what's coming next. More sports coming out at you. Yahoo Sports Daily coming at you next.
In today's modern baseball, can a reliever like Mason Miller win a Cy Young?
That's a good question. It would take a year, I think, like this for Mason Miller, a strikeout rate of over 60% on that slider, to make people say, yeah, he deserves the Cy Young. But if it doesn't happen and Mason Miller does this for the rest of the year, it will never happen. I think it's safe in saying that.
Got to get a touchdown on this possession. Stepping up Garrett. Garrett surveying. He wants it all. End zone Flavors is there.
No
but it's
way.
pulled away by
No
Cook.
way.
Cook pulled it out of the
No
air
way.
and out of the hands of Flavors for a Northern Arizona touchdown.
Way. That just happened. In my mind, I'm thinking INT, ball game's over. Marlon Cook says, give me this. I need it.
No referee should ever want to be the difference maker in the fight. We want the fighters to settle that. And you get a lot of people talking about, hey, you should be taking points for this. Every groin shot should be a point taken. Every eye thing should be a point taken. And you look and you go, I wish I could give you a taste of that, because you would hate it. There would be a lot of fighters losing that did not deserve to lose fights based upon the way you want me to do something.
Who is your breakout candidate for this year?
Kind of think Isaiah Likely with the New York Giants is a really good candidate this year. Kind of wide receiver room that could rotate a little bit and be useful players, but they don't, to me, have one dynamic. Even Fields, who I like, I don't know that he's going to be like a dynamic guy that right off the bus, round 3 rookie, leads the team in targets. I think that could actually be Isaiah Likely. Tight ends on their second contracts have been good bets to make. I think Likely is a good bet to make this year.
NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says the decision on the Clippers' Kawhi Leonard salary cap investigation should come by the end of summer. All right, so that gives us a bit of a timeline on an investigation that has taken longer than the investigation into the assassination of Kennedy. But what do I know? All right, so how much of Adam Silver's legacy rests, I should say, on the outcome of this investigation and the NBA's decision on punishment?
Dramatic if I say none at all. I don't think any of Adam Silver's legacy rides on this in the slightest. In fact, I don't know how much people really care about any of this. We care because at least I care because I feel passionately about if a league says that something is important, if a rule is held in high regard and someone breaks that rule, then there should be consequence. Like, I believe in that. I believe in governing bodies within sports leagues or just in life in general. I care about that. Pablo Torre cares about that. I know our colleague Tom Haberstroh cares about that. But I don't think that the general NBA public cares at all. In fact, if we polled just a casual, regular Joe, everyday sports fan, and we mentioned aspiration to them, I don't even know if they would know what we were talking about. So while I think Adam Silver's legacy should be impacted by this, because I believe that you cannot say that this is the cardinal sin of the NBA and then you don't even follow up with it, I don't think it'll be affected at all in the slightest. Money, ratings, attention, all of those things impact a commissioner's legacy. I don't think this will.
Now, look at the growth. We talked earlier about Kathy Englebert and the growth of the W. Look at the growth of the NBA since Adam Silver took over. In 2014, the NBA, massive growth, expanded from roughly a $5.5 billion business to an enterprise, according to AI, that generates over $11 billion in annual revenue. That during Adam Silver's time. Adam Silver's legacy's set. Adam Silver's legacy's fine. And a lot of basketball fans don't want to hear that. But realistically, again, the people he worked for are happy with the job he's done because they're all making money, hand over fist. They're making more money than they know what to do with. I think the real truth of the matter here is nobody cares because nobody really cares about cheating. You mentioned how many people could I walk up to and say aspiration to, and would they have a visceral reaction to what it means? NBA nerds, yeah, they'll push their glasses up and say, well, actually, the Clippers cheated. Most people, here's the follow-up question. If I sat down with true super fans and I said, hey, your team's going to have to cheat, but you're going to win a title. You're going to win a title, and then everybody's going to make fun of you for the rest of the time because you cheated for that title. You care? The answer to that, I think, resounding is no. Ask Astros fans how much they really care when they think back to celebrating the World Series. Ask Michigan fans how much they really care what Michigan State fans have to say while they celebrate their championships. They don't. They don't. Like this concept of cheating and sportsmanship and all of these things. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying is something we joked about when I was a kid. And it's something that feels real now. Almost in every professional sport league, you wonder who's bending the rules where and who's doing what. How many fans really give a damn? At the end of the day, if it results in you getting to watch your favorite team win a Super Bowl, do you care if your team circumvented the salary cap? If you get to watch your favorite team hoist the Larry O.B., but they have to cheat to do it, do you care? Nah, you don't. Do you really sit down in 20 years when you're telling the memory to your kids of what it was like to watch the final moment of Game 7 when they won the NBA championship, and then you say, yeah, but we acquired that player illegally? No, you don't care. You care about the memory in the moment. So how many people actually give a damn about whether or not the Clippers cheated? A very, very small portion. How many people really care about whether Kawhi cheated? A very, very small portion. And I think that's what the NBA was banking on from the outset. Let this investigation take forever because at the end of the day, we don't really care that much and fans won't care that much if it takes us a year to give them some sort of verdict. I think this is less just about Adam Silver, less about the NBA, and more about pop culture. I just don't think anymore people care whether or not their favorite team has to cheat to win. Silver also talked about expansion. Go ahead, Caroline. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm with you. I don't, as long as it's successful. If you're winning, nobody cares what you do. If you're losing, every stone gets turned over to find any sort of way to boot you out of the building. And all of a sudden, everything, down to the socks you wear and the podcast you listen to, gets criticized.
I mean, remember when Lane Kiffin went to LSU, you got that helmet behind you. All of a sudden, Ole Miss fans out there saying, oh, he did this and this and this. You didn't care when he was the Ole Miss coach.
Didn't care.
You didn't care about any of that. But now that he leaves Ole Miss, you're like, oh, wait, he wasn't a good guy. Yeah, you didn't give a damn about any of that when he was your coach taking you to the playoffs.
So ACC Media Days are here in Charlotte this week. I've been going all week with SiriusXM, and NC State's day was yesterday. And so I was talking to some of the NC State players, some of the NC State staffers, and somebody asked me when I was there, not somebody that works at NC State, but somebody asked me, are you embarrassed about the way that your team pulled Will Wade away from NC State. And I was like, no, embarrassed. What do I have to be embarrassed about? My team got their guy. My team rehired the coach that brought them to the #1 seed in the regular season in the SEC. My team brought back the coach that made LSU men's basketball more relevant than it had been since Shaq was wearing an LSU uniform. Embarrassed, upset, sad, mad? No. I'll be embarrassed if we lose. I'll be embarrassed if we have an early exit in the NCAA tournament. But we haven't had early exits from the NCAA tournament, so we haven't been making the NCAA tournament. So we get a coach back that's brought us there before? No, I'm not embarrassed. And you wouldn't be either if the roles were reversed and you were in my shoes. Because at the end of the day, what we care about as sports fans is our favorite teams winning at all costs.
How many times does a fan base say, oh, you guys cheated too? Or, oh, yeah, what about them? They did this too. Like, we argue about
they all
sports
cheat.
Like we're 8-year-old children. So it's inevitable. We did get from Adam Silver a timeline update on NBA expansion with hopes that an ownership group selection will be wrapped up by the end of the year for a fall 2028 debut for teams in Seattle and Vegas. He was mum about the groups currently bidding for teams. What do we think of this timeline? By the way, should be noted from the time that they announced expansion to the time that they will announce who owns an NBA team will have taken less time than the aspiration investigation. Go ahead.
Those are just minute little details. Those happen super quickly, right? Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I don't blame him for being hush hush and quiet about some of the secrecy, because what's the point of rolling it out right now? That doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'm sure the NBA, when expansion does come, whether it's Seattle or Las Vegas, whether that's Kansas City or San Diego or any of these other teams or cities that have reportedly been in consideration for expansion or relocation, I don't blame them for taking their time with it. The NBA should take their time to expertly roll this out, the marketing of it all. That's something that I've talked a lot about on Hoops 360 with Cassandra Nugley and the expansion teams in the WNBA, that I thought the Golden State Valkyries had a master class in how to bring in a brand new team, not just in success on the basketball court, because that's undeniable, of course. The Golden State Valkyries are the first ever expansion team to make the postseason in their inaugural season, but it was the marketing of it, the slow rollouts. We're going to show you the team name and then the colors, and the mascot is going to have its own little rollout. We're going to have a giant egg in front of the arena, and it's going to hatch slowly but surely, day by day, until the mascot hatches and Violet was born. I don't blame the NBA for being secret with this. I don't blame the NBA for being hush hush with this, because the rollout, the marketing strategy is going to be brilliant, and those things do take time.
Yeah, 100%. I also think that the league needs to be really aware of how they're going to handle expansion, because we've talked about this so often with the W, but even in the NBA, that's an established league with a lot of success. I don't know that in a place like Vegas, you can launch a team that's going to win 20 games a year for the first 5-6 years. So they've got to have an expansion plan that's going to bring competitiveness. So often sports have allowed expansion to be, hey, you're going to get just knocked in the teeth year in and year out while you figure it out. I don't know that long-term that's the best solution to getting a hold in a market, Caroline. So I think part of what this timing has to be used for is figuring out what the expansion draft process is going to look like to at least give these two markets a chance at being competitive from day one.
And you also have to be sure about your expansion cities. To that point about Vegas, we have a lot of sports teams come into Vegas. The Raiders came to Vegas a couple of years ago. Obviously, the Aces. We have the A's, I guess, going to Vegas. I don't know what's going on there. But you have to be 100% certain that the venues that you're choosing, the cities that you're choosing, that those are all financially feasible, and that the city itself can support a professional basketball team.
Yeah, it is a long and very interesting jury to get a process, I should say, to get everybody together. Yet they managed to do it faster than the aspiration investigation. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Maybe we'll have a solution to LeBron by then. Come hang out.